पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी. The third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is titled Karma Yoga. It begins with a question of Arjuna. The question is based on his kind of being bewildered by the direction which Bhagavan gives to him. He is perplexed. Why is the Lord telling me so? Therefore, first we need to understand what caused this kind of perplexity in Arjuna. So if you just glance at the question, Arjuna is asking, very clearly you are saying that establishment in knowledge, that is the highest. Nevertheless, when it comes to advising me what I should do, you are not saying that, but you are saying that I should enter into the field of action. So the whole second chapter, just titled Sāṅkhya Yoga, the entire chapter is devoted essentially for Sāṅkhya. It's titled Sāṅkhya Yoga and it is devoted for Sāṅkhya. Right at the beginning, after Ashocyananva Shochastvam, Natvevaham Jatu Nasam, that's verse number 12. There you see Bhagavan starting the Atma Anatma Viveka. Natvevaham Jatu Nasam Natvam Neme Janadipaha. The body everybody knows perishes. But Bhagavan says, you, me, and all these kings, they were there before, they will be there afterwards also. Now very clearly what Bhagavan is doing, there is this body which is perishable, an Atman which is perishable, and then you have the Atman which is imperishable. So Atma, Anatma, Viveka is highlighted. And then as the teaching grows, he explains what is the nature of the self. Some of the important verses, an important verse is Najayate Mriyate Va Kadachit. Anashinaha Aprameyasya. Dehi Nityam Avadyoyam Achedyo, etc., etc. The Nitya nature of the self, the Nirvikara nature of the self which is beyond the senses and the mind. So all these ideas Bhagavan presented to give clarity about the nature of the self. And then going forward, Veda vinashinam nityam yena majamavyayam katam sa purusha partha kanghatayati hantikam. So here, Bhagavan negated that in that ultimate experience, there is no karaka. When you negate karaka, you negate karma. Because it is karakas together that contribute for karma, action. So, kangatayati, hantikam, kena, etc., etc. Right? Katam sa purusha partha, kangatayati, hantikam. So, all these verses, so there you find that highest nature being pointed out as beyond action and the various contributory factors of action, karaka. And then later on, we're going to speak about the nature of the person who is established in that knowledge. You have that superb presentation of Sthitaprajña Lakshana. And then Bhagavan ended with a clarion call to all of us, all seekers. He said, Stitvasyam antakalepi brahma nirvāna vrcchati. So established in this state of being a Sthitaprajña, one ultimately achieves Brahma Nirvāna, dissolution in Brahman. In other words, one attains moksha. So the whole second chapter, if you see what is the final impact is Atma Vidya, being established in that self-knowledge and becoming liberated. So this was the final impact. And Bhagavan had also pointed out, look Arjuna, compared to this there is another field of sadhana. Compared to this, there is another field of sadhana. He divided the entire teaching into twofold. Somewhere around verse 39, I think. Yesha te bihita Sāṅkhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrunu. So far is the teaching of Sāṅkhya. Now I am going to teach you, I am going to give you the exposition of yoga. So that way, he divided the knowledge itself into twofold. Arjuna understands that these are two different things. Because Bhagavan had differentiated. And then, to Arjuna, Bhagavan says, karmanyeva adhikaraste. Meaning the whole teaching glorifies Sāṅkhya. The whole chapter, the final impact is that you got to realize, you got to abide in this self and become liberated. That is the impact. And for that liberation, the method is abidance in that Atma Vidya. This Brahman or this Atman or this Brahma Vidya or Atma Vidya is Sāṅkhya. Abidance in this is going to take you beyond. So Arjuna understands moksha. Moksha is attained through abidance in this Sāṅkhya, so that one becomes a Sthitaprajña. So Arjuna sees this cause-effect relationship between liberation and Sāṅkhya Buddhi. But when it comes to Arjuna, Bhagavan does not say. Of course, he says you should and all those things, but then Arjuna, you should perform action. Karmanyeva adhikaraha. Your adhikaraha, your eligibility And your qualification is what? Is action. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. So there is naturally this confusion in Arjuna's mind. Bhagavan all the while glorifies being established in Sāṅkhya, but then recommends for me Karma Yoga. He glorifies that, but does not tell me do that, but rather he tells me be established in Karma. So this causes in Arjuna's mind a certain perplexity, a certain kind of feeling, what is this? So you glorify something means you should say, you please go for that. You glorify something, but you tell me, don't go do something else. What is this? He understands Bhagavan will not say this without a reason, but he is not very clear. Now you should not tell me, Swamiji, doing Karma Yoga one gets Citta-śuddhi, and after Citta-śuddhi one should go to Sāṅkhya. That is because you and I, we have been talking about the second chapter for how long? For so many days we are discussing the second chapter. And therefore that clarity you will have. But for Arjuna, such a teaching was not given. It was not evident at least. And remember, being established in Sāṅkhya Buddhi, it's not that you do some action here, there, and then in between, little bit meditate for half an hour. No. That is not called as being established in Sāṅkhya Buddhi. Samadho achala buddhi. Achala buddhi means what? Without a break, you abide in that self-knowledge, which necessarily necessitates sarva karma sannyāsa. And that is also evident when Bhagavan teaches, withdraw the senses, withdraw the mind. Now, whenever you say withdraw the senses, withdraw the mind, then action is not possible. Action means senses and mind. Now, withdraw the senses, withdraw the mind. And how do you withdraw the senses? How much should you withdraw the senses? And then he gives such examples. Kurmonganiva sarvashaha, like a tortoise, where absolute withdrawal from the world of objects and total focus in this Brahmavidya, or total focus in this Atman Sāṅkhya, that is being recommended. So here you have renunciation. Of course, it is not just renunciation with abidance in that Brahmavidya, and then devoting oneself for a life of action. And what is being glorified to the hilt, as to say, what is glorified to the skies? Abidance in Brahmavidya is glorified. And therefore you have Arjuna asking this question, Bhagavan, why are you forcing me into action when what is greater is abidance in the self? Now naturally, Bhagavan will have to give the answer. And in this third chapter, you find Bhagavan, even though he has distinguished the teaching to be twofold, in Yesha te bihita Sāṅkhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrunu, Bhagavan now makes a very categorical differentiation of these two paths. And then, as per the adhikari, as per the qualification, one has to take the path that he clarifies. Not only that, he says, by the practice of Karma Yoga, Citta-śuddhi should be attained. He clarifies that here. So the missing link for Arjuna, that Karma Yoga provides Citta-śuddhi, And without the Citta-śuddhi, there is no way one can abide in the self. So that clarification Bhagavan provides in the 3rd chapter. And then he again also very firmly asserts that till the seeker gains Citta-śuddhi, there is no way the seeker can jump the steps and come to Sarva Karma Sannyāsa. Do you understand the word Sarva Karma Sannyāsa? What is Sarva Karma Sannyāsa? Renunciation of all actions. That is literal. But what does it mean? It means abidance in Brahman. There are two sides of the same coin. Complete abidance in Brahman means what? Complete renunciation of any distracting aspect. So in the 3rd chapter, what does Bhagavan do? Bhagavan divides the two paths and then says Karma Yoga for Citta-śuddhi. And till the attainment of Citta-śuddhi, every adhikarin should practice Karma Yoga. So that is how Bhagavan in this 3rd chapter highlights action as a sadhana. And that action as a sadhana is termed Karma Yoga. Now you should also understand that Bhagavan's teaching here is Upaniṣadic in nature. What do you mean Bhagavan's teaching is Upaniṣadic in nature? I will read out some lines from the Upanishads. I will take an Upanishad, Narada Parivrajaka Upanishad, and I will read out some lines wherein very clearly this aspect that Karma Yoga for Citta-śuddhi and without Citta-śuddhi, nobody must enter into the practice of Sarva Karma Sannyāsa. Now that idea, I should just read out some verses just for your understanding, so that you understand how Bhagavan's teaching is based, where Bhagavan's teaching is based. It's Upanishadic, I said. But how the Upanishads very strictly insist upon Citta-śuddhi through Karma Yoga and Sarva Karma Sannyāsa for the practice of abidance in Sāṅkhya. You see how that is? Let us see. Now some verses I will read. There's no necessity for you to be over concerned about those lines. Probably you can put it on the board and somebody can put it and then others can copy. But you please note these lines. Viraktaha pravraje dhiman saraktastu grihi vaset sarago narakam yati pravrajan hi dvijottamaha. So viraktaha, a person who has got absolute Vairāgya. Why absolute Vairāgya is being spoken of? Because Citta-śuddhi should lead to Vairāgya. How long should one practice Karma Yoga? Remember that line? What is that verse? Idate moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyasi tadagantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. Remember these two questions were there? How long should one practice Karma Yoga? How long should one abide in Sāṅkhya Buddhi? Right? And then what was said there? Shrotavyasya shrutasya cha nirvedam. Nirveda means Vairāgya. Now here, viraktaha pravraje dhiman saraktastu grihi vaset. If a person has got virakti, Vairāgya, a person has got Vairāgya, meaning if Citta-śuddhi has been gained, such a person, what is that person permitted? Pravrajet. Take to Sannyāsa. Take to Sannyāsa means what? Live a life completely devoted to Sāṅkhya. Viraktaha pravraje dhiman. Saraktastu. If there is sarakta means what? If there is raga, meaning if Vairāgya is not there, then what should be done? One should devote oneself to the field of action. Grihi vaset. Grihi vaset means what? The grahastha ashrama. The grihastha is for action. Sarago narakam yati pravrajanhi. If Vairāgya is not there and one enters pravrajan, one takes into renunciation, then what happens? Narakam yati. Narakam yati, one goes to hell. That's what it means. But what it means is that you will still go down in your evolution. Because action is the crucible for purity of mind. It is through action we gain the inner discipline. Action is very important for Citta-śuddhi. Action is not just very important for Citta-śuddhi, action is the only means for Citta-śuddhi. Such is the power of action. And therefore you find the Veda devoted to action. And then a little bit of the Vedic portion is Upanishads. Knowledge, a little bit is given, is sufficient. Whereas action takes a lot of time, and that devotion to action gives Citta-śuddhi. And then you see next one. Yada manasi sanjatam vaitrishyam sarvavastushu tada sannyāsa micchanti patitasyad viparyaye. You can easily understand. Yada manasi sanjatam vaitrishyam. Vaitrishyam means what? Dispassion. When in the mind you have gained dispassion, for what? Sarvavastushu, for all objects. Tada sannyāsa micchanti. Then one ought to go for sannyāsa then. Patitasyad viparyaye. Otherwise what will happen? There will be fall. Patitasyad viparyaye. Otherwise one will not rise in the spiritual ladder, one will fall in the spiritual ladder. What is action? Pravritti lakshanam karma jnanam sannyāsa lakshanam. This is a very famous line. Pravritti lakshanam karma jnanam sannyāsa lakshanam. Tasmāt jnanam puraskritya sannyased iha buddhiman. So what is karma? Pravritti lakshanam. Karma is of the nature of pravritti, action. What is jnana? Jnana, sannyasa lakshanam. And therefore, sannyasa is meant for what? Tasmat jnanam puraskritya. It is only for abidance in the knowledge. It is only for gaining the knowledge. Jnanam puraskritya sannyased iha buddhiman. So sannyasa is only for abidance in knowledge and not for anything else. Anything else you want to achieve, whether it is abhyudaya, whether it is prayers, abhyudaya. You understand these words? Abhyudaya. Opposite is what? Nishreyasa. Abhyudaya is material welfare. Whether it is for material welfare or whether for purity of mind, for both of them what should be done? Karma yoga should be taken up. Even if material welfare is there a little bit, one should enter into the field of action. And who is entitled for sannyasa? Jnanam puraskritya. So very clearly you have the Upanishads delineating for whom is karma yoga and for whom is sannyasa. So there is adhikari bheda. This Bhagavan Sri Krishna highlights in chapter 3. When we talk of sannyasa, remember sannyasa is twofold. One is called Vividiṣā sannyasa, another is termed Vidvat sannyasa. We may have discussed this before also, but please get this clarity very clear. Sannyasa is twofold. One is a sannyasa before knowledge. Another is a sannyasa after knowledge. Vividiṣā, the word Vividiṣā means vetumicha, desire for knowledge. So once the purity of mind has been gained to a certain level, to a certain admirable level, let us say, then such a person, fate permitting or destiny permitting, is allowed to go to sannyasa. The person has not gained the knowledge, but the person takes to sannyasa for gaining knowledge. And when you say the person takes to sannyasa for gaining knowledge, the person gives up the worldly activity and takes to sannyasa means what? Gives up the family, gives up the worldly entanglements, and the Shastra permits such a person to take Vidvat sannyasa. What is Vidvat sannyasa? Where the sannyasa ritual is there, and in the ritual, sannyasa ritual, one takes a vow, I give up all worldly pleasures. Bhu sanyastam maya, bhuvas sanyastam maya, suvas sanyastam maya. The Parisha mantras and all are there. So one is led through those various rituals whereby one disassociates oneself from the world. That is permitted. I have used two words there. After gaining an admirable Citta-śuddhi, number one, and destiny permitting. Why do I say destiny permitting? Because for some destiny may not permit such sannyasa also. There could be still certain responsibilities also. Usually what happens is that Bhagavan frees. That is the way of the Lord. When a person is ready, Bhagavan frees the person. And when Bhagavan frees, one is able to focus on what? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. These are the three sadhanas for gaining the knowledge of the self. Atma vahare drashtavya, shrotavyo, mantavyo, nididhyasitavya. Then such a person dedicated to Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana exclusively. So sannyasa is meant for knowledge. Exclusively one works at it, and such a person gains the self-knowledge, what is called as Tattva-jnana, what we can say aparokshanubhuti. Now this is what, this kind of sannyasa of dedication to Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is called what? Vividiṣā sannyasa. Renunciation associated with the desire for knowledge. Now once the knowledge is gained, then again there is another kind of sannyasa. And what is this sannyasa termed? This sannyasa is termed Vidvat sannyasa. Now in Vidvat sannyasa, sannyasa means renunciation. Sannyasa is sarva karma sannyasa. Whether it is Vividiṣā sannyasa or Vidvat sannyasa, it is sarva karma sannyasa. Renunciation of all distractions. But then the person who already has gained knowledge, the person already has gained Sāṅkhya. Tattva-jnana is Sāṅkhya. And this person who has already gained this knowledge, now tries to establish himself more and more in this knowledge. This is what we saw in the second chapter conclusion. And such a person who has managed to finally completely establish oneself in this knowledge, such a person is called as what? Sthitaprajña. So, being a Sthitaprajña is at the end of, is with the practice of Vidvat sannyasa. A classic example for Vidvat sannyasa you find in the Upanishads is Yājñavalkya. Yajñavalkya. Those who have some idea of Yājñavalkya know that Yājñavalkya was a teacher of King Janaka. And then, after the teaching and then seeing Janaka having gained that knowledge, Yājñavalkya declares, Abhayam vai Janaka praptosi. Hey Janaka, you have reached Abhayam. It is the same Yājñavalkya who teaches also Maitreyi. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, you will find. And at the end, again, Yājñavalkya tells Maitreyi, I have taught you everything, and you have also been fulfilled by the knowledge. Now, I take to renunciation. He was about to go. Maitreyi said, what is that for which you are going? Please teach me that. And then she got that knowledge from her husband, Yājñavalkya. So Yājñavalkya became guru for Maitreyi. And then finally, what does she do? What does he do? He renounces. Now you may wonder, a person who has gained knowledge, why is he renouncing? Renunciation is for knowledge. And he has already gained knowledge. If he had not gained knowledge, how would he have taught Janaka? How would he have taught Maitreyi? But that, what he is going for, is different. He has already gained the knowledge. He wants to establish himself in that to become a Sthitaprajña, to become a Jīvanmukta. Because up to this is a spiritual path. So this is called as Vidvat Sannyāsa. So Vidvat Sannyāsa is for what? Vidvat Sannyāsa is for somebody who has already gained Sāṅkhya. Vividiṣā Sannyāsa is for what? Vividiṣā Sannyāsa is for somebody who wants to gain Sāṅkhya. Can you see this difference? In Vividiṣā Sannyāsa, what is the focus? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is the focus. In Vidvat Sannyāsa, what is the focus? The knowledge which is gained is focused upon. So Tattvajnana is the focus. And how does one focus on Tattvajnana? Already there is a purity of mind gained. Already there is a quietude of mind gained. Otherwise Aparoksha Jnana would not have happened. But even after that, still refining it. And this process of still further refining it is called as the practice of Vasanakshaya and Manonasha. So more and more the person still quietens his mind. Quietens the mind, not just quietening the mind. More and more the person abides in that. In the case of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi also you can see. He gained the knowledge, is it not? As a young boy he gained the knowledge. And then what did he do? He started abiding in that knowledge. And it is said for many years he was very quiet, unknown. In every Mahatma's life you will find this. In Ramana Maharshi's life you don't find he taking to Vividiṣā, Sannyāsa and gaining Sāṅkhya. Because of his Purva Janma Sukrita, because of his previous life, lives off. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnānavan Mam Prapadyate, Bhagavan Shri Krishna would say. So all those things would have happened and something lit that fire and he gained it. So you don't find Vividiṣā Sannyāsa, but you can find also Vividiṣā Sannyāsa in many Mahatmas' lives. Take the classic case of our own Paramaguru or our own Guru also. Whether it is Pujya Gurudev or Sri Swami Tapovanam, you will find there is a period of Vividiṣā Sannyāsa. Of course, in the case of our Paramaguru, Sri Swami Tapovanam, even though he left, he did not take that Vidvat Sannyāsa. But the Mahatmas there said, by that time he was a great Mahatma himself, Tapovanji. And the Mahatmas there said, why don't you take to Sannyāsa? You are already one. And then Sri Swami Tapovanamji took sannyasa there. Already he had left his home and went off. In a way it is sannyasa only. In a way Vividiṣā sannyasa only. But then when he took sannyasa in the ritual way, that sannyasa was Vidvat sannyasa. In the case of our Guru, Pujya Gurudev, you see he is taking Vividiṣā sannyasa. And then you can find that, when he speaks about how, he studied with our Paramaguru, Sri Swami Shivananji, and thereafter Swami Tapovanamji, how Gurudev says it is Swami Tapovanam who pushed me to the beyond. And then when you find his life history, you should also read these works. In my trek through Uttarakhand and all, you will find Pujya Gurudev fully abiding in this knowledge. What we say, Vasana, Kshaya, Mono, you will find all these things. In every Mahatma you will find usually the state of Vividiṣā sannyasa and Vidvat sannyasa. And occasionally in Mahatma's life you will find only Vidvat sannyasa also. But then you should understand what is the whole flow of spiritual life. So now let us map the spiritual life for perfect clarity. Okay? So how would you say? First, Karma Yoga. What does Karma Yoga lead to? Citta-śuddhi. Okay? Now, Citta-śuddhi, from there, you can put two branches. Okay? But let us put the first branch, what we saw now. From Citta-śuddhi, then you go to Vividiṣā sannyasa. What is Vividiṣā sannyasa? Sarva karma sannyasa is one side of the coin. Another side of the coin is what? Shravana manana nididhyasana. Right? And what does one gain from that? One gains Tattva-jnana, knowledge of the reality. Then what happens? Then you go into Vidvat sannyasa. Just as how you had, am I going too fast? Okay. Just as how in Vividiṣā sannyasa, there is sarva karma sannyasa one side, another side is what? Practice of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So also, when you go to Vidvat sannyasa, one side of the coin is what? One side of the state is what? Sarva karma sannyasa. Another side is what? Another side is practice of the Tattva-jnana or Sāṅkhya. The word Sāṅkhya is for Tattva-jnana. Tattva-jnana, Vasana, Kshaya, Manonasha. And then what? Then that leads to what? That leads to Jīvanmukti. So this is the overall overview of the spiritual path. Now I said there are two branches, right? After purity of mind. After purity of mind, one branch, usual branch. 90% of the time, the usual branch is Vividiṣā sannyasa. If destiny permits, remember I had given two conditions. Purity of mind, destiny permitting. Usually destiny permits. It happens. That is God's plan. God also has another plan also. And what is that plan? That plan, that person remains in the field of action. And you find great Mahatmas among Grihasthas also. It's not that only sannyasins you find great Mahatmas. Among Grihasthas also you find great Mahatmas. Even after Citta-śuddhi, of course they also gain knowledge. It is not that only through exclusivity they gain knowledge. There are also people who gain knowledge. It's not that people who are sitting here are all sannyasins, right? Or renunciates. Somehow God finds for them also methods and means by which they gain knowledge. That is God's job. They also get an opportunity for Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Even if they are not Vividiṣā sannyasins. That is path number 2. See, from Citta-śuddhi, you find the 2. One goes through Sarva Karma Sannyasa. Another, the person remains in the field of action. Citta-śuddhi has been gained. Just because Citta-śuddhi has been gained doesn't mean the person has given up action. The person continues. Because that is what destiny is. The karma phala tyaga continues. And the person also gains knowledge. Now you may say, Swamiji, for the person to gain knowledge, there is a requirement at some point of time for the person to totally work at it. Somehow God provides all those opportunities also. That is Bhagavan's prerogative, how He provides. We don't have to worry how Bhagavan does it. How Bhagavan does it, how Bhagavan does it. Even in Janaka's case, you will find Janaka, if you read the Yoga Vasishta and all, you will see Janaka also finally abides in that higher meditation. Even though we quote the example of Janaka as engaged in action and all, and gaining liberation and all, we speak. In Gita also it will come, in 3rd chapter it will come. But Janaka also, it is a requirement for gaining aparoksha jnana. One's mind has to absolutely be established in the self. Otherwise, aparoksha jnana cannot come. Yes, but God ensures that such an opportunity for abidance and dedicated pursuit is made available. At that time, even if one is not literally wearing a cloth of a sannyasin, one does the type of sadhana of a sannyasa. So that is what I mean, that from Citta-śuddhi to Tattvajnana, from Citta-śuddhi to Sāṅkhya, you will find also this option, but little rare. So now that you understand the whole gamut of the spiritual map, now let us go to Arjuna's question. What is Arjuna asking? All the while in the 2nd chapter, you glorified that sarvakarma sannyasa and abidance in that Sāṅkhya. Which Sāṅkhya? That self-knowledge which is gained. And abidance. Abidance in it, sarvakarma sannyasa, and abidance in it what? And that is called as Vividiṣā sannyasa, Vidvat sannyasa. All the while you glorified that. Yājñavalkya did not give up his home before he got. You see in the case of Yājñavalkya he was running his Gurukula, he was teaching the students, he was teaching Janaka also. He was in the field of action and he got that knowledge. And then after gaining that knowledge, he wants to establish himself in that, and he devoted himself totally for that. All the while you are glorifying such a abidance. In 2nd chapter, what is being spoken in Sthitaprajña lakshana? In Sthitaprajña lakshana, that of a sarvakarma sannyasi. What kind of sarvakarma sannyasi? Not Vividiṣā sarvakarma sannyasi, but Vidvat sarvakarma sannyasi. What is Vidvat sannyasa? The renunciation of the Vidvan. Vidvat sannyasa is renunciation of a Vidvan. Vividiṣā sannyasa is renunciation of the one who desires knowledge. Whereas Vidvat sannyasa is what? Vidvat sannyasa is a renunciation of a person who already has gained the Tattvajnana, that Sāṅkhya, that Aparoksha Jnana. All the while, Bhagavan, you are glorifying this. But what are you asking me? You are asking me to enter the field of action. You are able to get the whole thing. Yes, the whole picture, spiritual path. And where is Arjuna's confusion? Arjuna's confusion is where? Not in Vividiṣā sannyasa. Arjuna's confusion is there in Vidvat sannyasa vis-a-vis karma yoga. So very far away karma yoga is. Karma yoga is for Citta-śuddhi. And after Citta-śuddhi comes Vividiṣā sannyasa. After Vividiṣā sannyasa, comes Tatvajnana, Sāṅkhya. And after Sāṅkhya or Tatvajnana comes Vidvat Sannyāsa. And after Vidvat Sannyāsa comes Jīvanmukti. Arjuna's question is what? I want to be established in Brahman that you taught me, but you are asking me to do Karma Yoga. Bhagavan did not say Buddhu. Bhagavan did not say that. Bhagavan very, very happily explains to Arjuna. Now, keep one thing in mind. In chapter 3, there is a question. In chapter 5 also similar question will be there. Same question. People think Arjuna is repeating the same question. If Arjuna was repeating the same question, Bhagavan would have told, I have already answered this question. Chapter 5 we have not studied so far. It will come. In chapter 5, what is the question? The chapter 5, the question is, now it is between Vidvat Sannyasa and Karma Yoga. In chapter 5, it will be between Vividiṣā Sannyasa and Karma Yoga. That is the difference. When we come to that chapter, we will see that in detail. Okay? But just keep in mind, this chart that we have put now will be useful also when we go to the 5th chapter. It will be also useful when we come to the 18th chapter. And therefore, this is a very, very important chart. Therefore, let us revise again. First what? Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga leads to Citta-śuddhi. After Citta-śuddhi, Vividiṣā Sannyāsa. Vividiṣā Sannyāsa leads to Tatvajnana. After Tatvajnana, what should be done? Vidvat Sannyāsa. And Vidvat Sannyāsa leads to Jīvanmukti. Give me another name for another term for Jīvanmukti. Sthitaprajña. Give me another name for Tatvajnana. Sāṅkhya. Another name, Avarokshajnana. Okay? And in this one exception also is there. What is the exception? Instead of Vividiṣā Sannyāsa, a person continues to walk. But Swamiji, after gaining Aparokshajnana, okay? After gaining Aparokshajnana, is it really necessary for me to focus on that, or can I? First you gain, later on we'll see. Useless questions people will ask. Swamiji, the point is, Swamiji, why I'm asking? I have already gained Tatvajnana. Where is my stick now? Ego, I tell you, Babre. I am not telling I have gained knowledge, because if I tell I have gained knowledge, Keno Upanishad says I have not gained knowledge. Therefore, I am not telling you. Yasya matam, tasya matam yasya na vedasa, avijñātam, vijñātam, avijñātam. I belong to that category. All right. So, useless questions are meaningless questions. After becoming a jnani, to abide in it, at that time, everything happens in God's plan. Because God is the owner of the world and He runs the world. Not you, not me. How, what, when happens, you just live it. You just do what the Shastra says should be done, and rest God take care. Now let us go to Arjuna's question. Arjuna, starting from the beginning, Om Shri Paramatmane.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Adha Tritiyodhyayah. Karma Yogaha. Arjuna Uvacha. Jayasi Chet Karmanaste. Mata Buddhir Janardana. Tat तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां
तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां
नियोजयसि केशव
नियोजयसि केशव
अर्जुन उवाच जायसि चेत् कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि केशव.
Arjuna Uvacha. Okay. I don't have to explain Arjuna Uvacha. Uvacha means said or Uvacha means asked? Asking is also a saying. So the word Uvacha can be understood said, can be understood asked, can be understood exclaimed, can be understood in these many ways. So here, Uvacha means Arjuna said, but in English we say Arjuna asked. Arjuna questioned. What is Arjuna's question? How does he address Bhagavan? Janardana. Janam ardayati iti janardana. Janam ardayati. Ardayati means one who hurts, one who destroys. Hinasti. Ardayati, hinasti. That is the alternate synonym. Janam ardayati iti janardana. What is this, Swamiji? Janam ardayati? Bhagavan destroys janam? What is janam? The word janam here does not mean people or person. Janaha, janam, like Ramaha, Ramam. It is not. Here jana means janma. Jananam iti janam. The root is jan. From jan comes janam. Because we are born, we are called as jana. All of us are called jana, is it not? Each individual is called janaha. So why are we called janaha? Because we are born. Therefore jana. But the word janam by itself can also mean janma. So one who destroys birth, one who destroys birth and death cycle. Birth is because of Ajnana. So Janardana means what? One who destroys birth. One who destroys birth means, birth and death means, one who destroys samsara means what? Samsara is caused by Ajnana. Therefore Janardana finally means one who destroys Ajnana. Hey Janardana. Now I'm going to take the other words. Karmanaha Buddhi jayasi te mata. Karmanaha. Karmanaha compared to karma. And here we are not talking of sakama karma, because that Bhagavan had, that's not part of sadhana. Here karmanaha refers to not sakama karma, but nishkama karma. It refers to karma yoga. Karmanaha, compared to karma yoga, buddhi. Buddhi, knowledge. Jnāna yoga or Sāṅkhya yoga. That buddhi, jayasi. Jayasi means superior. Shrestha. Te mata. If that is your te mata, if that is your considered opinion. Opinion word is very poor. If that is your considered thought, if that is your exposition. Te mata chet, if I have understood that rightly. The chet is to say, if what I have said is right. I have understood this. What did I understand from the second chapter, your exposition? I understood that higher than karma yoga is the establishment in buddhi, is an establishment in Sāṅkhya, is an establishment in Jnana. Which would mean what? Which would mean that I give up all action and focus on that and that alone. Sarva karma sannyasa, Vidvat sannyasa. If that is your considered, if that is what you consider to be right, then I have a question. What is it? Kim mam karmani niyojayasi. If that is your that is what you have taught me, and if I have understood right, now please tell me. Kim karmani, why do you niyojayasi? Niyojayasi means what? Why do you engage? Why do you command me to action? Where did Bhagavan command Arjuna to action? Karmanyeva adhikaraste. Well-known line. Or tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya kritanishchayaha. That is verse number 37. Tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya kritanishchayaha. Hey Arjuna, get up. Uttishta. And firmly decide that you are going to engage yourself in this battle. So, in this way, why are you engaging me in action? And the two, what kind of action? Gore karmani. Bhagavan had told, as far as duty is considered, sukha dukkhe same krutva labha jaya jayav. And within duty, you should not see what is giving up ragadvesha, one should. All those things Bhagavan said. But Arjuna's notion of still that duty of mine is ghora. Ghora means what? Ghora is very horrible, detestable, himsatmake. Is associated with pain and difficulty, gore. Why are you enjoining me? Tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Why are you engaging me in action? Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani gorema niyojayasi keshava. So why are you engaging me in action? Right? And then he says, I am just confused at your teaching. Let us read the verse.
Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyohamapnuyam. Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyohamapnuyam.
Vyamishrena iva. Vyamishrena iva. Vyamishrena vakyena iva. Buddhim mohayasi iva. Me buddhim mohayasi iva. Your teaching is looking very jumbled up for me. Your teaching is mixed up. So when two things are mixed up like milk and water, it's very difficult to separate one from another. In the same way, your teaching of, you're telling, Jnana, Sāṅkhya and all, and then asking me to go into action, looking very jumbled up for me. I do not know what is that you actually want me to do. You are very clearly saying I should go into action, but your teaching seems to glorify knowledge. And therefore, finally, how is it for me? Your teaching is as though confusing me. Me buddhim mohayasi. Now, very interestingly, Bhagavan says, Vyamishrena iva. Mohayasi iva. Iva is as though. As though means what? Arjuna understands, Bhagavan, you will never want to confuse me. Your teaching can never be mixed up and confused and jumbled. But my buddhi is not able to grasp it. And for me it looks like this. There is something I must have missed out. That Iva says that the fault is not with Bhagavan, the fault is with me. Something I must have missed out. I only request this. Tadekam vadanishchitya. Tadekam tayoho ekam. Because yes, I can see that you are giving two things. One is Jnana, another is Karma Yoga. You are giving me these two things. But the teaching is, you are glorifying Jnana and asking me not to go towards Jnana, but you are asking me to perform Karma Yoga. So therefore it is not clear how this is great, but I should not do that. What is good, what is great only, I should go. But you are glorifying Sāṅkhya as the one which leads to liberation, but then asking me to enter into the field of action. Therefore I feel something is wrong. Something is amiss. Something has gone wrong. Did I understand anything wrongly? Glorifying knowledge but asking me to do karma. Therefore, you please, see, what you glorify, you should ask me to do. What you depreciate, you should ask me to go away. But you glorify knowledge. And you also mentioned something like this. You said, Durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya. So, those kind of words are little confusing for me. Durena hi avaram karma. Maybe you mentioned that is sakama karma, maybe. But karma is low. So it is not making sense. So I only request you one thing. Ekam vada nishchitya. First you decide. Nishchitya, you very clearly, after deciding, ekam vada. Tell me one. And what should be that one? Yena shreyaha aham apnuyam. By which that shreyas, what I wanted, is achieved. Shreya. Which is that Shreya? Where did Arjuna mention Shreya? Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha prachami tvam dharma sammuda cheta yashreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me. I want that Shreya. For that, what is the means? That you give. You have said two. Between that, one you tell me. And I assure you, I will dedicate myself for that. So in this way, Arjuna presents his doubt. And then Bhagavan replies, which we'll take up tomorrow's session.